The Ontario Human Rights Commission, OHRC, welcomes you to our three-part educational series, Exploring Dreams Delayed. Over the course of this three-part series, we begin with an overview of dreams delayed, explore the human rights obligations in education, and outline the actions and expectations needed to address discrimination. And we'll highlight how organizations, education leaders, and communities can play an active role in addressing systemic anti-Black racism and discrimination in Ontario's public education system. As you move forward in this video series, we encourage you to reflect deeply on your role as a duty holder, how your decisions, daily practices, and the policies you create or follow shape the experiences of Black students and educators. We invite you to engage openly, think critically, and consider how the learnings from this series can shape our collective work moving forward. Next, let's take a look at an overview and some core definitions and concepts. In 2022, the OHRC launched the Anti-Black Racism and Discrimination in Education Initiative, centering the voices of students, families, educators, and communities with lived experiences. The Ontario Human Rights Commission reviewed more than 70 years of community reports and compiled over 190 recommendations from 83 reports into a compendium of recommendations. These findings reflect decades of advocacy and the ongoing impact of anti-Black racism in education. For generations, Black students, families, and education workers have faced racial discrimination and harassment, disproportionate discipline, academic streaming, and feeling unsafe in the school environments. Dreams Delayed builds on community leadership and provides a roadmap for ending systemic anti-Black racism in education. It imagines school environments where Black students, educators, and staff are respected, supported, and experience a strong sense of belonging. At its core, it calls on education leaders, as duty holders, to uphold their human rights obligations to respect, protect, promote, and fulfill the right to non-discrimination by creating learning and working environments free from discrimination and harassment. Black communities have made profound contributions to Ontario, yet inequalities persist, making systemic change essential. To make real change, Dreams Delayed identifies three foundational themes. 1. Accountability and transparency. Duty holders must improve outcomes, not just check off tasks. The public must also see whether human rights obligations are being met. 2. Monitoring and evaluation. Progress must be outcome-based, supported by the collection and analysis of data. 3. Student well-being. Student well-being is central. Real change requires transforming systems, not asking students to adapt to harmful environments. It is essential that we begin by defining what we mean by anti-Black racism. Anti-Black racism is prejudice, stereotyping, and discrimination, directed at people of African descent and rooted in the history and legacy of enslavement. It is embedded in institutions and systems to the extent it is often normalized or invisible. It contributes to persistent inequalities in education, employment, income, and overrepresentation in the child welfare and criminal justice systems. Key human rights concepts. To address discrimination, we must understand the human rights principles behind this work. Systemic discrimination. When policies or practices, even ones that appear neutral, create or perpetuate ongoing disadvantages for certain groups. Substantive equality. True equality focuses on outcomes by ensuring fair access and opportunity, and recognizing that different treatment may be needed to address systemic disadvantage. Race and racism. Race is a social construct, not a biological one. Racism can show up in attitudes, behavior, policies, and systems. Intersectionality. Students may face overlapping forms of discrimination, for example, based on race and disability. Harassment. A pattern of unwelcome comments or conduct that a person knows or reasonably should know is unwelcome. Poisoned environment. A school climate made harmful by discriminatory comments or conduct, even if not directed at one person. Schools must ensure positive, inclusive, and non-discriminatory learning spaces. Your role in taking this action is simple. 1. Reflect on your responsibilities. 2. Begin conversations within your teams. 3. Commit to creating safer schools that advance substantive equality. 4. Use dreams delayed to guide meaningful action. Thank you for taking this first step. This video introduced systemic discrimination, substantive equality, accountability, and student well-being. Each duty holder must act decisively to address discrimination and build an inclusive education system. Carry these concepts into the next videos as we explore how to apply human rights obligations in practice. The next video explores the Ontario Human Rights Code and the principles guiding education. To learn more about Dreams Delayed, visit ohrc.on.ca/dreamsdelayed.